What up, buds? That's right, the trees are budding. Welcome to Sequential Geek. It is springtime. Oh yeah, the weather is so nice. It was 81 degrees yesterday out here in southeast Michigan. I mean, damn, you'd think it was summer, but hey, happy springtime, y'all. Welcome to Sequential Geek, yo. If you're new to comics, you really don't need ShillTube. YouTube's got this majority one-sided take. Send me a comment. I've got some resources in the description for some websites to check out. Overall, hit me up with some questions if you have any questions about collecting. I am a longtime collector, been hitting up comic book collecting off and on since the late 70s. Check it. Just be my haul, y'all. To take off from where I left off in my last haul, I know I said that I would do a review of a comic book that I got in my last haul over at Fall to Midnight in the Detroit area. So I'll go ahead and do a review of that. To take off from where I left off, I was showing off some of these Ghost in the Shell comics. Ghost in the Shell, Man-Machine Interaction, Ghost in the Shell 2. So this is the second Ghost in the Shell series by Masamune Shirow, the creator, the writer-artist of these really intriguing, sexy, well-illustrated, very colorful and alluring covers, comics by Masamune-san out of Japan. This particular series, the second Ghost in the Shell series, came out in 2003 out of Dark Horse Comics. It ran for a total of 11 issues. These are the comics that I got in my last haul for Ghost in the Shell issue number 2. Ghost in the Shell part 2, right? Issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, and here's issue 6. Some really just like really cool cyberpunk looking, tripped out, highly detailed artwork on this like 21st century futuristic take on Japan, so the world. Very cool artwork, and just to continue I got these for $5 a piece, except for this second to last issue I'm about to show. So got issue number 1, and then how hot this cover is. Issue number 5. Really cool art though. I mean, it's just some salacious cyberpunk. Issue number 10, second to last issue. Altogether, this cost me $9. So maybe because it's towards the end of the series, a little bit lower print run. Don't know. Dope looking cover. I'm looking for an affordable copy of the trade paperback of this. So if anybody has any feedback on Ghost in the Shell and the stories, please hit me up. This Helverine comic I got last December over at Fall to Midnight. It's a total of 32 pages for $5. So y'all let me know what you think of the cost benefit here. $5. That very last number, this is the direct edition barcode. So that very last number, the number 1 on the right, that means first printing. The first 3 digits is the issue number, and then that 4, that's like which cover it is. So for the first printing, it's the 4th cover, it's the D cover. I don't know if that's ratio or what. $5 price tag. 32 pages of a comic book. You get actually though 25 pages of story. You've got the first page. That's just like your intro. We've got your artist, writer here. Can't say I'm too crazy about these people. Pretty critical. But the first and last page, you got your intro and then the teaser for the next issue. Then you've got 25 pages of story, so that's 27. And then you've got 5 ads, 5 pages that are used for ads. Your typical story structure, you have a beginning, you have a middle, and you have an end. So you have a 3-part story. You introduce the characters. The middle part, you use up some pages to have them deal with the conflict, resolve something. And then the last part, that 3rd part, you either resolve some questions or you start leading on to new questions that the person will buy the next issue, and we get that here. So Check it out. The first 10 pages is a setup of the character, all right? And we're introducing to Dakin and just letting the people know who he is, what he has to deal with being this new type of Ghost Rider, the Helverine. And they also show how I think it's just like this different spirit of vengeance called Ga+e. And he had temporarily changed his father, Wolverine, into this Helverine, and then after he died, he's explaining how it took over his soul or put his body back together after Sabretooth sliced him up, and now he's assuming, as he's saying in the intro here, that he's supposed to be hunting down people that are evil. He thinks that. All right, so initially they're showing how he has to suffer some of the consequences of just being this Helverine, right? He's losing his tent because at night he turns into the Helverine whether he wants to or not. I think that this is a very boring depiction of this. I think that the artwork for $5 comic from one of the richest, wealthiest companies on the planet could do a lot more. When you've got the name Marvel owned by Disney, I'm going to hold you to a higher standard. Sorry. But this setting here, how they're just showing like one panel like that, I find it basic. I find the artwork basic. And you know, you could have showed him encountering somebody. Maybe if he was hitchhiking, you know, you could show him losing his bike or some vehicle or something because he fell asleep in it. Then you could show him maybe hitchhiking, or he encounters some people that are really rude, and you realize that the town that they dropped him off in is his town. They're all just a bunch of assholes in this town. So he just decides then, in the last panel, to go to sleep in the town, right, as a joke, because he knows he's going to wake up and set the town on fire. Doing a little revenge that way, in his own way, indirectly using this thing as a tool for him to fuck with these people that are being just blatantly cruel to others unwarrantedly. That's just something that I'm saying. He could have encountered some type of people on the road, and then he just does that falls asleep in the town to set the town on fire. I don't know, just a little something different. Cool image here though, gotta say. It's not bad. It's not bad. His origin, right? He accidentally kills his foster parents. Right? That'll fuck you up. Right? He talks later about how he rejected the help of his father and he's on his own, and this evil inside him can detect people right before they're going to commit a crime, and he thinks that he's there to help the evil. And then here's the middle part. The middle part is 7 pages. So you got 7 pages of him finding the spirit, and it leads him to find out that there's all these other bodies in there, and he finds out the person that's killing the bodies, that's killing these people, the serial killer, and he kills the guy, right? All right. He does, though, note, too, how this demon, what do we got here? Ga+e is then taking the bones, the carcasses of the people that he's killed, and creating these like sculptures. All right, he knows something's up, and then we have the final 8 pages with him going to Doctor Strange, trying to get some resolution. And Doctor Strange is like, I'm not the Sorcerer Supreme, but I'll still help you. He's never met Doctor Strange before. He demands to have help. He forces Doctor Strange to check out his issues here, and showing all these like human sculptures this Ga+e is using for its victims. I wonder if that has something to do with its like plans within plans, right? Because Strange is telling him that this Ga+e isn't really just having him hunt down people that are evil. There's something else going on. So now he's going to the North Pole to find this Ga+e. So he's going to find out what the hell's going on with what's the real reason he's become Helverine. And that's what Doctor Strange is telling him to do, and that's the end. Overall, I do like some of the detail, the shading, the colors. Great job. The story altogether is... how do I put this? Overall, it's okay. It's not a bad story. The coloring, but it's like sometimes some panels are given more attention, more appreciation for detail than, in my opinion, most others. And I feel it's lacking. I feel this quality of art, like right there. And then also, if you look at Some of the proportions with the body here, it just seems second rate. It doesn't seem like a Marvel comic, especially at $5. Now, check this out. I bought a couple other 50-cent issues, okay? And then I want to review some other issues. Check this out. This comic I got for 50 cents, okay? This Madman comic. Madman Comics. I think it was like Madman Adventures maybe before this. And then just Madman. This comic from Dark Horse came out 1995. All right, so we're talking 1995. Story and art by Mike Allred. Coloring counts. It really does, and I think Laura Allred does a great job here. $2.95 price tag for a comic book that came out in 1995 with 0 advertisements. 32 pages of story, and this starts off, the first 7 pages, taking off from the previous issue with him being exposed to these shrinking chemicals, and it's just very zany. It's just like you cannot really expect where each page is going to go. There's a lot of just expressions in this and the way that people talk to each other. It's like, I don't know how you would explain it, non-conventional. It's not your regular superhero comic book. Check out some of these Madman comics when you get a chance. I mean, it's really the purpose of me to be showing some of these comics is just to kind of expose people to different types of books that you might not give the time of day to initially, and then be surprised that you might be interested in something. And also just to let people know that there are these 50-cent dollar bins out there that do have these really cool books that you might not be willing to pay cover price for, but if you want to experiment, check out some new types of art, forms of sequential storytelling, check out the 50-cent and the dollar bins, please. So the first 7 pages is setting up this character. He's dealing with all this zany stuff, where he meets this dude right here who calls himself like one of 3. I am Nephite, one of 3. And he says that Madman is one of 4. Some mystery that Allred is brewing. Different types of stuff that come out of nowhere, that he will have loose ends and stories that will eventually be tied together. So the next 7 pages, after he shrinks down, reaches some type of like tunnel, a pipe, goes into this new environment. So another 7 pages, I think, of this new environment, and some weird dude using the bathroom, steps on the spider that was almost going to kill him. He gets sucked up by the fan, grabs some stubble that turns out to be this guy's zit. I mean, it's just some crazy shit, man. I mean, for 50 cents a dollar, it's, for me, no big deal. So the first 14 pages, you're setting up this character, just what this comic is about, you know. He does encounter then this robot that was sent to find him by his friend, this doctor who's part of this superhero team of people, and the robot's telling him how they just got attacked. All right, and then that, I think, is for like just like another 5 pages, and then you got the remaining 7 when he goes with this robot to find the doc to help him, and just out of nowhere, this is the zaniness I'm talking about, this creature finds him and helps him get to where he needs to go at the top of this hill. And then, like I said, the story is bookmarked by the same like mysterious, kind of like omniscient type dude that I'm wondering if it's just like a Allred kind of putting himself in the comic, maybe, not sure. Kind of from the way this guy talks, you might think so. And when he finds out what happened to his friends, he's arming up to go after him. And it leaves off with Astro Man. I like Madman. I think he's super fun. And this creator, Mike Allred, eventually, by around the year 1999, he creates his own label called AAA Pop. And then he takes some more of these other characters from these Madman stories and incorporates them into this superhero team from AAA Pop called the Atomics. I don't think any of the characters are in this comic, though. I have more pages showing like where the robot came from, how they got attacked by these other robots. This dude with the little gloves on reminds me of this like character that's used often in the early 70s. Not sure where that originated from. Then you have, I think the final 7 pages are then just out of nowhere, this thing grabs him, helps him get to where they need to go. And then, like I said, it's bookended by this like mystical being, kind of knows everything. I'm wondering if that is all red. So he arms up to go after the people that attacked his friends. And then in doing so, this other robot, Astro Man, is coming to life, and he's kind of wary of him. And then like the remaining pages here, you've got ads. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5, 6. With the universal ad, option for a movie, baby. Hollow foil cover, gimmick of the early 21st century, option for a movie. Next one I got for 50 cents is this banner book. It's the last one I was going to review of the 3. And this is the last issue of a 4-issue mini series that came out in the early 2000s when Marvel was just coming out of bankruptcy. So they were letting a lot of just like indie artists grab hold of these intellectual properties, these long-time IPs that Marvel has, and just kind of do their own thing. Build upon the characterization though, not to change them like an Ultimate Comics version or an Absolute version. So we got this comic here that's written by, I believe, the 100 Bullets writer, Brian Azzarello. Yeah, Brian Azzarello, but then you have legend Richard Corbin doing the art. Fucking cool is that? So during this time, Richard Corbin did a Luke Cage 4-issue limited series that ended up having like a 5th issue, kind of like how Transformers was 4 issues in the 80s, and then they had that 5th issue out of nowhere. That's what happened with Cage when Corbin was doing this during this time, early 2000s. It's around 2002, and here we got yourself a 4-issue limited series. The price of this is $2? $2.98. I remember trying to have some friends of mine get into comics, and they would be like, yeah, anything over $2, or like, I'm not spending on a comic. So, although friends of mine did love those trade paperbacks, they did buy trade paperbacks. So the individual issues for comics, as the price goes up, it's no wonder people aren't showing up getting new stuff. Check out the 50-cent bins, check out the dollar bins. Not only am I going to promo books that you might not normally see mainstream, but I also want to promote just the fact that all the comics in these comic book shops, they're not all like $5. A lot of shops don't like to advertise the 50-cent dollar bins. They just want people to buy, like, you know, the new comics, the $5 books. But yeah, I got this for like 50 cents. So here's a Marvel comic from around 25 years ago, 32 pages altogether. 9 ads, right? Ads at the end, no ads in the beginning in 1995. Your latest comic, kind of, you know, from last December, right? Helverine, 5 pages of ads with 25 pages of story. And this one has 32 pages, 9 ads all together, okay? 9 ads all together. And I think it's 25 pages of story. Check it out. Beginning, middle, and end, right? So your first 7 pages, okay, you're introduced to Bruce Banner. He had some knockout gas. They knocked everybody in the town out to get Bruce Banner. He's hanging out in this town. I think he's in New Mexico. Now, by this 7th page, we're reaching the middle part of the story. Interesting, though, here in the structure of how the panels are, I found. You've got these 3 panels that you're going to see being used at the bottom of some of the pages in here. And I think it's some irony, or like they're kind of like some Doc Samson getting psyched out. Well, check it. So Doc Samson in these first 3 panels at the end of the first section here, the beginning, introducing everybody. So here's Doc Samson and this general, and they're going to go check on Banner that they captured. This guy's like saying, I must admit, Samson, I had my doubts. And he's like, I didn't notice. He's like, I deserve that. And he's like, yeah, I deserve an apology. Right? So here's Samson being all prideful and trying to like show up this general that's running everything. He's like, I keep my promise, General. So he's being all like hero-y, and this guy's more like just, I don't give a fuck. These last 3 panels right here, we have Doc Samson like assuming he has power. He's assuming he got one up on the general. it's interesting because he's like, yeah, okay, I'm the man now, right? These 3 panels at the bottom here are used to show us this initial assumption of Doc Samson, and then as they keep showing these 3 panels, watch. Let's go to the middle part of the story now. So now Doc Samson's caught Bruce Banner. They got all this like nitro in the tank that he's in. Just give him a little high here. And we're gonna have another 7 pages of this middle story where you've got Doc Samson. He wants to save Bruce Banner. He wants to use science and all the weapons of the military to contain Banner and help Banner, right? Well, here's your 3 panels here, and he's just like, I told you not to underestimate my power, Samson. Because he's telling him how they're just gonna kill this guy and take Banner's brain and try and use it that way to see if they can reproduce the Hulk. And he's just like, yeah, I'm cool with it, you know. Interesting though, here is when Bruce Banner eventually says, like, I make bombs, right? Because Doc Samson's like, you can't do this, you're a great guy. Doc Samson is further explaining how he has this connection with Bruce Banner. If it wasn't because of you, I wouldn't be who I am today. Doc Samson has long hair because it's like, it came out around 1970 when people were having long hair to protest the war. It was a style, it was a political statement. There's nothing political going on here, but with Doc Samson, the thing with him is the longer his hair is, right, the more surface area he has to absorb the rays of the sun, which is the source of his gamma-related, Hulk-related powers. All right, that's the original concept of Doc Samson. Right here. Because he's like, we have the technology, we have the means of the military to help save you, to keep you from hurting anyone ever again. And he's like, hurting anyone? I made bombs. I find that great. Here's a guy who originally, right, was a scientist whose goal it was to create weapons of mass destruction. And he becomes a weapon of mass destruction. It starts off with Doc Samson thinking he's in power, thinking he knows what's up. Then you got the general being like, I told you not to underestimate my power in these 3 panels. And all of a sudden he's like, what? Now, again, he's trying to seek a way of understanding what the hell is going on, trying to get a grip, realizing even Banner's okay. So it's like Banner's okay with his fate, right? Banner's now saying how they dropped him on a village like a bomb, like a boss. He comes to, seeing the village is destroyed, this town. And then the final 8 pages, you have the resolution, right? So here he is, finally coming to grips that he has no power. Right? It's not Banner that he wants to come to grips with, because he's freaking out that Banner's okay with his fate here. See how his face, like he's trying to deal with Banner, but really the reflection, he's dealing with himself. In denial. Well, he turns up the nitrogen, I guess, and then cuts off the oxygen maybe? Here? He's like, thank you. Whether he's like, thanks, I accept my fate, I'm gonna die, I don't think so. I think he's more like, I accept my fate, I'm just gonna become the Hulk. There is no end to the Hulk. You cannot capture Banner, right? I thought this was a great story. The one thing, I thought it was great just because, you know, I like some of the techniques that were here with the 3 panels. He thinks he's in power, right? He's slowly realizing every one of these that he's not in power. And then I like this metaphor here, this visual metaphor with him trying to like beat his head up against the wall, but really he's dealing with his own denial, right? And then I guess you have acceptance. So, interesting. For just a dialogue story, Richard Corbin's graphics pulled me through. I finally read this. I got this last year. Wolverine Essentials, some reading material. And I read this like last winter. Just off and on, been reading it. I love the black and white depiction of these Wolverine reprints. I read the Chris Claremont stories. That's what I got this for. And I think it's the first 10 Wolverine issues. The last page, they would have one of their top tier artists do an illustration of Wolverine. So Barry Windsor Smith. And here we have issue number 5. Okay, so 1988, the first limited series was 1982, I think, of Wolverine. So here's your first ongoing Wolverine series in 1988. Written by Chris Claremont. The art, though, is by John Buscema. I love this table of contents, by the way. And do they have the covers that they include? Some of these, yeah. And I love how they include the covers with the issue number. Stuff like that I think is really great with reprints, whether it's color or black and white. But these John Buscema reprints with Al Williamson doing the artwork, the first 8-9 issues, that is so lovely seeing that in black and white. I find those Al Williamson inked John Buscema illustrations with this Chris Claremont story of Wolverine. You're introducing Wolverine, him in Madripoor, right? This like shady, underground, crime-ridden type of place. I find that to be a tribute to Modesty Blaze, especially with the Al Williamson inks, because you've got a story that is done by Dennis Cohen, I think around issue number 10. Here's issue 7, and that is John Buscema is doing both of the inking now and the art, actually, in issue 7. Here's issue 6, the last page, has a Todd McFarlane illustration, so if you're a Todd McFarlane fan. Issue 6 of Wolverine from 1988, the first ongoing volume. It's your Wolverine illustration. But as far as when Al Williamson stopped doing the art, inking, it's the first 6 issues where you have this like little love letter to Peter O'Donnell, the writer, creator of Modesty Blaze, and Jim Holdaway, I believe is the artist, the original artist of Modesty Blaze. You even have this Humphrey Bogart, Casablanca type scene. This one guy that runs this little club. It looks just like the bar Casablanca. And the guy that's running it, I think, is supposed to be like a shout out to Peter O'Donnell too. Or maybe Willie Garvin even. Kind of reminds me of that guy who was a sidekick of Modesty Blaze. Hold up. Yeah, so this guy who runs the Casablanca type bar in Madripoor, his last name is O'Donnell. And this back and forth he has with the police officer, the local cop in this district in Madripoor, is just like Humphrey Bogart and that one Vichy inspector. Really cool inking. I just find it, with the shading and just seeing this type of work in black and white for the first time, rereading this since when it originally came out, it was lots of fun. Now, if I go a little farther, let's go into like issues. Check that out though, like what do you call that? Like the atmosphere that's created, the mood. Really enjoy Al Williamson's inks on that. And I love that original take on Wolverine. The more weathered combination of Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood, the more of a grown man type of way about himself. And then with issue 7, you have John Buscema just doing the work himself, which is fine. Issue 9, issue 8. We got Patch meeting up with Mr. Fix-It. That first appearance of Mr. Fix-It. And Patch is just fucking with him the whole time. He's pissed. He woke up and Wolverine, Logan, Patch, whatever, took all his clothes and left him with purple pants. Still real nice illustrations, though. Definitely still a tribute to the Holdaway and O'Donnell's Modesty Blaze, for sure. And then you've got like a Jerry Conway story, one shot, that's right here. And then after that, as of issue number 10, Bill Sienkiewicz takes over doing the inks. The history of Wolverine slowly being revealed. Here, how Silver Wolf is killed by Sabretooth. And we get that initial concrete connection. I think also just before this 1988 series, during when the Marauders were attacking the Morlocks, and I think around issue 213 of the X-Men, when Wolverine and Sabretooth were fighting, you know, they were alluding, Sabretooth, they were all talking back and forth, alluding how they've known each other. So then you get this piece, issue number 10. Younger, naive Wolverine getting his ass beat. So I pretty much just read the first half of this and really enjoyed it. I recommend it. Just wanted to give a shout out to Wolverine fans and Modesty Blaze fans. Check out those first 6 issues of that 88 Chris Claremont, Al Williamson inked John Buscema art Wolverine Volume 1. Happy Superman Day, Superman Week, whatever, what is up? Superman. I collect Action Comics reprints, so I thought these were coming out a month ago. They don't even fit in a Golden Age bag and board. The comic book shop had one, and they showed me how they couldn't fit it inside. They were afraid of damaging it. It was such a tight fit. That's what she said. So, one more thing. The All-Star Superman has the first free edition that was on Free Comic Book Day, like about 10 years ago, I think. But you've got the latest giveaway, All-Star Superman #1, that just came out this week. I think it's to promote the Superman movie, because Superman Day, I just looked it up, isn't until July 11th. So what's up? This is just a promo for the movie, right? Superman Day 2025. So I got a couple copies of this. There was a printing of All-Star Superman, a reprint that has a foil cover, and I passed on that. I've got all the other editions, though. Check out my past hauls. This is the latest reprint of Action Comics, originally from June 1938. 1938. So, what, 3 more years? It's going to be at the 90-year anniversary. 87 years ago. Jerry Siegel, the writer, Joe Shuster, the artist, brought us the first superhero, Superman. Action Comics #1 was in 1937. The first comic from, was it National Periodicals, National Publication that became DC Comics. $14.99, $9.99. That's right. Wow. Check it out. This is the Dan Mora variant. I got this to give away. A reader copy. $10.99. First appearance of Superman. Check this out. Damn. I just find this really cool. I mean, you got stories in here. Sure, you got westerns, but you also got this is Zatara, right? First appearance of Zatara. You also got like historical fiction, some stories in here, boxers, mobsters, crime, detective stories. Tex Thompson, I think he becomes this other character, Mr. America, in 1941, around the same time as when Captain America appears. Is that right? They turned him into this Mr. America character? Wow. Anybody that collects appearances of celebrities in comics? There you go. Action Comics #1. Original cover price for this, though, was 10 cents. So you know, in 1938. Crashing to Earth. A scientific explanation of Clark Kent's amazing strength. You know, because ants can lift, what, like 50 times their own weight? Hundreds of times its own. Grasshoppers can grow and jump. It's 11-page story. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-page story. My bad. Interesting here how towards the end he saves Lois Lane because this guy tries to cut in on them dancing, and then Superman's like, or Clark Kent at the time has to play the weakling. Lois despises him, so she takes off. These guys chase after Lois, kidnap her essentially, and then he, as Superman, stops them. You have your classic, iconic, timeless image here. The cover image of him saving Lois. Now, my point though is this next story where there's a war going on in the South American Republic that they have here. San Monte, Superman, or Clark Kent's boss, is sending him there to figure out what the hell is going on with this war, to do a story on it, take some pictures, come back to the newspaper. Instead, Clark doesn't tell his boss, but he goes to Washington, D.C. This is interesting. How often in a comic book do they show a lobbyist contacting a senator, they're in cahoots, manipulating some political economic situation, and Superman steps in and goes after this guy? I mean, today you'd call him a lobbyist. The senator's like, you know, don't let people know that we know each other, don't talk to me in public. They don't really get into like who this guy is or where he comes from, but Superman ain't having it. He knows that there's something corrupt going on with him and the senator, this war that's being started in South America. So he's gonna harass this lobbyist till he stops, I guess. They just show him harassing this guy, jumping around, carrying him, having the guy feel like his life is being threatened so that he stops supporting this, pushing this senator to manipulate this war in South America. Some political economic basis for a story here. I thought that was kind of interesting. You don't see that often. Superman helps a guy who was on death row and then wakes up the governor to save the dude's life. You know, you've got a wife beater that Superman stops. Domestic abuse. You know, I just think that stories like this, these types of topics, would be great if they were tackled by superheroes in modern day comics. Especially considering the success this initial superhero story has had. So, 1938, Action Comics. Now, when I went to Stadium Cards and Comics to get this. The guy that runs the shop, Mark, is a really cool dude. He's like, hey, when I was leaving, gave me a stack of comics, just old ratty books that, I mean, they weren't like torn up or anything, but they weren't in fine condition. Maybe if you were lucky, you know, I'm thinking like fine minus, some VG comics, yeah, around like fine minus. So I gave them away. I kept this one, Soul Vamp, just because it looked like a cool read. It's around like 2002. It looks like some type of like self-made comic, you know, that you might see in the 80s. But I love this type of indie shit, and I'll do a review on this later. Pencil ink cover by Tracy Stoops Wilson. So, and then it's written by Matt Wilson. So you got Stoops Wilson brand here, and one of the comics in the stack that I was given. It's called this one Soul Vamp, and I like the way that they introduced the character. I mean, you just have this little action scene where this woman, I think she's like trying to be detained by these corporate, by these overlords, robotic police. I'm not quite sure if they're supposed to be like anti-heroes, like villains that are just being chased down by the police. She escaped from a prison, and I think it's sort of like this like totalitarian futuristic state, kinda cyberpunk maybe. I'm not sure how much like internet virtual reality stuff is incorporated, but I just read the first few pages and just look at this. Fucking A. I mean, what do you think? Helverine has better art than this? I think this is way more exciting. Do a review on this later. So check this out, 1938. Part of that stack of comics that was given to me that I gave away, I took out 2 Superman comics, okay? A couple of Superman books, then I decided, fuck it, let's just get like the latest one. Think about it, 1938. Well, it turns out, of the 2 comics that I took from that stack that were the only 2 Superman that were given to me, we got this comic right here from 1988. So check it out. 50 years later, John Byrne's doing the comic, right? Then, this comic right here, Superman number 274, okay? This is from April 1974 cover date. And this, I believe, is like 37 years after the first appearance of Superman. This comic book right here is like 38 years ago, right? 38 years before the latest Superman comic, 37 years after the first Superman comic. 50-year anniversary. I don't know, just thought the numbers game with that was really interesting. As far as the content, just wanted to show you, got 1974, 20 cents. The price is doubled 37 years later. This is Nick Cardy cover, Kurt Swan doing the interior art. Altogether, you've got a 20-page story with 11 ads. 11 ads and 1 letter page in this comic book right here. Kurt Swan doing the art. And this is just this like writer that thinks Clark Kent is who he is. He's this naive guy, and he's gonna create these situations for Clark Kent to go through because he's trying to figure out the ending for his book, and he figures, okay, if this guy is like the character he's writing, then he's gonna try and present Clark with these weird situations to see how he reacts to help him with his story. There's some doctor here that doesn't use the word wormhole, but says how they can create a hole in space to go from Earth to Mars. And it's this device that he has that's really careful because it could suck you in, right? But, you know, of course, at the end, Superman saves the day. Very iconic, classic image right there, that Kurt Swan image of Superman. If you've seen this before, pretty sure I have, it's from issue 274. This John Byrne comic, that was really interesting. 50 years after Superman came out. Cover date July 1988. 75 cents, 22 pages of story, and 8 pages devoted to ads, plus a letters page. And this guy, they're like some strike force, this little dude, and then this big guy. They're trying to probe Earth to see if they can conquer Earth. So they got this gambit, this little farce going on, where he's making it seem like this guy can turn your powers off and absorb them. Really what's going on is this little dude, it's kind of like how people think that they're blind, but their eyes really work, but it's psychological. That's the explanation that's revealed later. And really what he does is he'll turn off that part of your brain that you use to control your powers. You think you don't have them when you really do. And then this guy's ability is once he sees one of your powers, for I don't know how long a period of time, but he can mock the power, he can emulate it. So when he sees Superman have his heat vision, it's revealed here that his heat vision can't even be used to hurt himself. And when he lost his power of invulnerability, here he is freaking out that he can bleed. So if you're keeping track of comics where they show Superman bleeding, being cut, whatever, being able to be hurt, this might be one of them. But he does confirm here that his heat vision can hurt himself. And I think John Byrne does show in an earlier issue when John Byrne was revamping Superman, modernizing him in that Man of Steel series that he did, 86 I think, that Superman uses his heat vision to shave. He has like a piece of the spaceship that he came in and ricochets his heat vision off of it to aim it at his 5 o'clock shadow. So this particular story, I just wanted to go over really quick. It's just a landmark 50-year anniversary, and I just thought it was cool, just the time between all these comics, and I just thought this was fun. I mean, you're introduced to Aquaman, who comes to try and figure out what the hell is going on here. Martian Manhunter, Elongated Man, they all are losing their powers. You've got Supergirl. She can't remember who she is. I just came in the middle of this. I don't recall what happened, but she ends up in Smallville. Just one page kind of alluding to that. See if the readers will maybe go pick up a Supergirl comic maybe. Jimmy Olsen's mom is like, no, you're not going out. He's like, I don't care if you think Superman needs help. I'm afraid you're going to end up getting stepped on by somebody. And Shazam is here. Cover price, yeah, 75 cents. This latest issue, right? This is your absolute version of Superman. I decided, okay, I want to get, you know, your first appearance of Superman. Let's get now the latest version of Superman. This is like an ultimate version of Superman. You know, the absolute version of Superman. You can't expect it to be exactly like Superman. They're trying to modernize him. Here's a promo here, but they use the entire page with these more modern comics as opposed to like the gutter around or whatever. The coloring in this I thought was really cool, really brilliant. Look at the sky compared to the plants. It's just, but the reds wash out. It like almost is awesome. Like you've got some pages here with the illustrating as well as the highlights on their face. It's really excellent work. But then the reds here, I just find it washing shit out. So it's kind of touch and go for the artwork because I think the coloring kind of just messes it with me. But then, like, this is a great page of it raining. Overall, because of the coloring, I think it's okay. And this alternate version, you've got these Peacemaker type soldiers. I just came in the middle of this with issue number 6. With this, how much are we talking? $4.99. $5. Yeah. 22 pages straight, no ads. And then you've got, they're using up a page here to let you know about the artists, writers, everybody. Jason Aaron's story. Gian Domenico is the artist. Ulysses Ariola, colorist. Sorry about the fan in the background. The heat is kicking up. I'm on the 3rd floor of this 1920s building, and the bricks and this brownstone really love to retain the heat. It's hotter inside than it is outside, so you gotta have the AC here. So once again, sorry about the fan kicking in the background. This story, the artwork was cool. I thought as just a science fiction story goes, it was fun. As far as a Superman story goes, it's an absolute story. I just wasn't crazy about it going into it. I know that things are supposed to be different because it is absolute. It's like an ultimate story from Marvel that they had 25 years ago. So you got the Absolute version, the new Ultimate series, just like the old Ultimate series from Marvel. They're like these alternate universes. So the Absolute is like that. I think there are certain aspects with Superman that you should stick with. He's raised by the Kents. He doesn't know a goddamn thing about Krypton. You know, he thinks he's human, and then he finds out when he gets a little older that he's not human, and those aren't his parents. There's a lot of just him screaming, and apparently, like, he reaches Earth as an adolescent. This is issue number 6, where he crash lands to Earth at this point and meets the Kents. He doesn't speak English, and kind of like the Kevin Smith version of Superman, the movie, when Nicolas Cage was supposed to play Superman, they had it so that Superman's powers originated from like the pod that he crash landed in. It grafted onto his body. This one does confirm the yellow rays of the sun give him his powers like the original Superman, but his suit is the ship that he came in. At first, it's not working because he did crash onto Earth, but it talks to him, and I wasn't crazy about Spider-Man in the MCU having this suit that talks to him and helps him, because part of the cool thing with Spider-Man was just him trying to get by on his own, right? Like if you tried to picture yourself going into a big city, it'd be pretty exciting, it'd be a little scary. How am I going to do this? I'm just a teenager, right? Well, here's Spider-Man, a teenager in New York City, getting by on his own, alone, essentially. So this story has some interesting aspects. It's fun as far as just the science fiction goes. As far as a Superman fan, as far as a Superman fan, it's reaching. The whole him always screaming and being confused, and just, you know, they're trying to raise him, and now he's destroying the bed, and he's floating, and his heat vision kicks in. He's destroying their home, essentially. They lost the farm. There's a theme here of like corporations taking over the United States, right? Because they talk about how they're going to be losing the farm, Ma and Pa Kent, and then you have like this American flag right there. This reference to Lazarus, you know, alluding to Ra's al Ghul in the Lazarus pit. Future site of Lazarus Corp. Super farm. Seems like this Lazarus Corp has taken over the United States, I think. And the final scene, Ra's al Ghul. They're aware that this Kal-El, this Krypton baby, has landed on Earth. I don't know if they know where he's from, but here's Lois Lane. Yep. Here we go. That's about it. Apparently, if you are an authority, the only way to depict somebody is uptight. So it's like a little cliche with that, but seems like they could have done a little better job for showing off Lois Lane. I don't know. As far as a Superman story goes, appealing to me, not really. As far as it being something that I'd want to look at again, not really. It took him 6 issues to get to him meeting the Kents, and then he ditches the Kents. They don't really raise him. He's only there for like a few months. There's some drones that were flying overhead, and the suit, when it first kicked in, notifies him of that, and then the suit can just automatically disable the drones. It's just too easy. Yeah. You know me, I'm pretty skeptic about a lot of modern stuff, but let me know your feedback on my review of issue 6 of Absolute Superman. Do you think it's reaching? Am I being too critical? Appreciate your feedback on that, but I don't think it's worth, what, $4.99? I know a couple people that would really enjoy this, so I'm looking forward to giving this away and finishing the rest of this, and I'll do a review of that one indie comic, Soul Vamp, in a little bit. And in the meantime, happy springtime. Much love. Keep on reading, keep on collecting. Peace.